I have been in the retail industry for 28 years, in all sorts of sectors, as Andrew described, starting off at Habitat and therefore working in interiors specifically. Then going on to Next, where in fact I worked with Michael for a number of years when he headed up the Next jewellery business, and I was there.
Something embarrassing, so
No, you're fine. And I worked in various areas of Next, including the jewellery sector while that was developing. Then I went to WH Smith's and had a fast-moving career in stationery, as they say, and was there for 13 years, where I headed up the product development department and then moved into the buying side. And 10 years ago, I decided that it was time to go off on my own. And I've been working independently since then as an independent retail advisor, predominantly within the stationery and greeting card area, but also more latterly within the gift sector as well. And have very much enjoyed the couple of years I've worked with the GA specifically, co-opted onto the National Committee, working as within sort of giving retail advice, just in terms of how buyers work, the sorts of dynamics within the industry that people need to take into account. So, picking up on some of the points that Andrew actually made in his introduction, which are quite interesting, I'm actually going to spend some time talking to you this morning about understanding your customers and the importance of this in this very fast moving and changing industry. And if you picked up on a couple of things that Andrew actually said, he mentioned the statement adapt and die, and of course actually that is exactly what we have to do all the time now, in terms of making sure that we understand what is going on in the economy as a whole, the impact that has for our customers, and therefore how we have to adapt our businesses to make sure that they still want to do business with us. And although my background is predominantly retail, and some of the examples I'm going to cite to you this morning are retail examples, it doesn't actually matter where you are in the supply chain. The actual points I'm going to raise are equally relevant to you as suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, or wherever else you might appear in the supply chain. In terms of the sorts of things we're going to look at this morning, I'm going to look briefly at the current economic situation. Of course, we are all consumers ourselves, and to that extent, we're affected just as our own customers are within our businesses by all the changes that are going on in the economy. So a lot of what I'm going to say to you today, you'll sit there and think, oh, hang on, but I know that. Well, yes, you do know it because we're all living it every day, but the point is it's making the connections and understanding the impact that this has on your business, not just you as an individual consumer. So having thought about the key elements of the economy and how that's affecting us, we'll go on and actually think about how that affects our behaviours, what we're actually doing, how we're spending our money, and so on. And then I'm going to put forward some ideas to you about the sorts of things you might want to consider in thinking about how you need to adapt your businesses to actually take account of the points that we've looked at. So, the current economic situation. I've summed it up in one word: uncertainty. The thing is actually we've been trading in these uncertain times since about 2007, when we first had the crisis with Northern Rock. And that seems like a very long time ago now. In fact, they're talking about selling it, aren't they? So in terms of this position, it's been going on for a very long time. We've actually been trading like this for the last 5 years. And we've got used to trading in uncertain times, and it's ever changing. So the elements and the dynamics that we're having to consider are moving on every week, every month, and every year. And that's why we have to keep reassessing our positions as businesses. But the one thing that you can be absolutely certain of, be you in business or as an individual, is that we all have far less cash to spend, and we all have far less time to spend it in, because we're working that much harder to stand still in terms of our business's growth and development. Having said that, it isn't that we're not spending at all. We are all spending money. We've spent money to get here today, be it on the fuel that we've used in our vehicles, be it on the train fares, be it on the new tie to go with the suit, whatever it might have been. So we are all spending, but we're being a little bit more thoughtful how we're doing it, and we're absolutely spending less. So if we take those key elements and think about how that's actually impacted on our customers' behaviour, The first thing to think about is that we're all re-evaluating what is important in our lives. And that can be within our personal lives, that can be our work-life balance, it can be how we spend our times in the offices every day, the bits that we do behind the scenes that everyone's completely oblivious of, but actually should be making a difference to our businesses. And in making the choices about what we're going to spend our time doing, what we think is the priority, what is the most important, a lot of people actually aren't spending money necessarily in retail environments anymore buying product, but they may be spending time and money with friends and family on occasions rather than pure product. So in terms of the mix of our offers and what we're doing as businesses, we need to understand and remember that people are looking at this balance within their lives the whole time. The next point I put up here is that people are spending less, but they are actually spending more often than before. And this is about managing cash flow. People don't want to commit a lot of money up front if they're not completely certain that the money that they're spending is going to reap the rewards that they hope. As a business, of course, it's all about payment terms and when that cash is going to come back in. So you might be placing smaller minimum orders so that you've got the sales coming through to go back and buy more product later. So again, it isn't that we're not spending money, but we're spending less and we're doing it more often. And so as businesses, we need to think about how we alter our product offer to suit that new dynamic. People are also having to make choices about what they spend their money on. In those good old days when we might have had a bit of extra cash sloshing around, we might have bought two because we weren't quite sure which one would be better. Now we absolutely won't buy two, we'll only buy one, and we'll only buy the one that absolutely does the job that we need it to do. So in making sure that you're offering the right product for your customers, remember that they're going to be much more discerning about the choice that they make. And in doing that, they're going to want to know much more about how it functions, its longevity, its suitability going forward in terms of future technologies, and so on and so on. So as businesses, we need to be much better placed to pass that information on to our customers to encourage them to actually make the decision to buy with us. The other thing that they will be wanting in any purchase that they make is great value. Value, of course, isn't just about price. It isn't about buying the cheapest for everybody at all. Value is a combination of quality and price. It's about what you're getting for your money. So again, in making those choices, they're going to be asking you many more questions about the value they're going to get out of this product that they're looking to buy from you. And all of this means that their purchases are much more considered. They're likely to take much longer before they actually make that decision, particularly where there's a large amount of money or investment at stake. And picking up on the point that Andrew made earlier about the use of the internet, of course customers, whatever they're buying, are so much better informed than they ever were. They can get on the internet and they can research things to their heart's content. They can compare you with your competitors. They compare your service with their service, the pricing, and so on. So when you're marketing to your customers, you need to make sure that wherever they have a way of accessing you as a business, that you're giving the level of information easily for them to actually make the decision to buy with you. Part of making these buying decisions will also be geared around the fact that people want things to be much more functional and useful than before. This particularly relates to things like the gift market, whereas before, when you were buying a present for somebody, quite often it would be gratuitous. It would just be a lovely thing to have. Whereas now, a lot of gift purchasing is about functional and useful products. So again, this need to be seen to be using money wisely, for things to be functional and useful, is impacting on the gift market, for instance, so that the increase in sales of much more functionally orientated gifts rather than just really nice decorative pieces is really changing as a mix within the market, and important to understand within your product offer, either as a supplier or a retailer. Andrew mentioned new product and innovation, and again this is particularly relevant to the market going forward now. Really important that product is seen as being unique, unusual, that if there's new product on the market and you feel it's appropriate to your customers, that you do think about where that fits within the mix. it does make a difference when people come into a shop or they're looking at your catalogues or online. That famous phrase when they come onto your stand at the trade fairs and say, what have you got that's new to show me, actually has even more importance now than ever before. And it's not that everything has to be new the whole time. This idea of buying less and refreshing more often means that you can have new product, less of it at key times, but that you're refreshing your offer more often. And that applies to retailers as well as suppliers and manufacturers. And the unique, the quirky, the unusual gives people a reason to buy product from yourselves rather than your competitors. Relevance. Well, anybody who's been reading the press in terms of the demise of Clinton's last week will have read that one of the major causes for their eventual downfall is believed to be the fact they weren't relevant to the market anymore. A difficult one when you're a business that size, and actually it was quoted with Woolworths as well back in 2008. But being relevant to your consumer is absolutely fundamental. The fact they wanted to buy something from you 10 years ago does not mean they want to buy it from you today. If the market has moved on, your competitors have changed, the offer has changed, the pricing structure has changed, they won't want to come to you anymore unless you've moved with those market dynamics. And, you know, Clinton's didn't have an offer that matched Moonpig in the way that it needed to. They hadn't moved the product offer on. It was too big an estate to move quickly and easily with the market. You know, just the very size of it, any change was hugely costly. And relevance is massively important to all businesses, whatever sizes, whatever sector you're in. You have to be relevant to your customer. And this is absolutely the essence of everything that I'm saying this morning. Understanding your customer, delivering what they want means that you will be relevant to them. I've mentioned value for money. Yes, it's not going to go away. It's not just about price. It is this quality price balance that people perceive as offering good value for money. It does mean that virtually all market sectors are hugely price sensitive these days. Setting the right retail price is absolutely critical within your market. If you think you'll get away with an extra £1, £2, 50p, whatever is relevant within your pricing structure for your market, the chances are you won't. So value for money as a benchmark is absolutely critical, and sometimes it's worth foregoing margin to actually maintain those critical retail price points to make sure that the customer buys from you. Market extremes. If you read the press, you'll find it really interesting to see how the different ends of the market are working so differently. The luxury brands are seeing massive, massive growth. A lot from the export market, admittedly, but nevertheless the cachet and the aspiration that is driven by luxury brands doesn't seem to be dying in these current times. Likewise, the discounters like Poundland and Lidl and so on, seeing huge growth again. And so at the opposite ends of the market, the top and the bottom, there is massive growth where customers decide what is really, really important to them. And actually, the real battle is going on in this middle ground where it's all about identity and what you stand for as a business. And that's the really critical field in terms of making sure that you understand your customers and they understand you. And the final point I've put on the slide is customer service. It's very, very dominant within the mix now. It's not just about product, it's not just about price, it's also about service and what your customers can expect from you. They're not as loyal as they used to be. If they get good service elsewhere and that is dominant within their choice, they will move business. Very, very important to make sure that customer service isn't lost sight of, maybe as a cost saving. It's a false economy. So having said all that, how can you actually respond to make sure that your business still moves forward given all those potential changes to take into account? Well, the first is to say that your business needs to have a personality. And again, picking up on what Andrew said earlier, he talked about developing products under their own brand as a way of people understanding what they offered in the market. And personality is all about brand. And I think there can be a misunderstanding that brands is for big companies like Nike and Orange. It absolutely isn't. Brand is every one of our businesses. It's about you being able to define clearly and simply in one sentence what your business stands for, what a customer will get when they do business with you, what they can expect. And you know, people like or dislike brand. You know, it's the Marmite thing. You either love it or hate it, but the reality is you know exactly what you're going to get when you stick your finger in that jar for a quick taste. And if you don't like it, you won't take the lid off. McDonald's and Premier Inn, you know, you may hate McDonald's, but you're under no illusion about what you'll get when you drive under those golden arches. And that's what brands are all about. And as individual businesses, it's important for independent retailers, myself as an advisor, whoever we are, doing whatever we do within the industry, that our customers know exactly what they can expect when they do business with us. So you have to make sure that your business has a clear personality and that your customers understand what they're going to get from you. And in doing that, you therefore have to be completely consistent in the way that you approach things. You can't decide that you want to be positioned as a mid or premium retailer and then decide to go and buy a job lot of something cheap off the market to sell at some extraordinary low price. Because everyone who's come to your shop feeling proud of carrying one of your bags away is going to feel very, very upset if they know that you've had a job lot of something in the window as well. So you have to be absolutely consistent about what you stand for, where you stand in the market, and what people can expect from you. And this works through from product to service to your pricing strategy, how you present yourselves in the market, how you advertise, how you show yourself on your website, on printed leaflets, on Twitter, whatever it is that you're doing. You have to be completely consistent about your approach, so you leave no one confused about what it is they get. But the important thing about all of that is that in understanding who your customers are, you will understand the best ways of communicating with them. And that will have changed a lot. You know, as Andrew said, 3 years ago there wasn't Twitter. Now, huge numbers of people follow one another on Twitter and take recommendation from them as to what it is they should be doing next. If you're not appearing on those sorts of media channels and that is relevant to your consumer, then you should be out there. If you don't believe it's relevant to your consumer, then fine. But you need to understand where they're looking for stuff, where they're researching, where they're receiving communications from, and make sure that you're available to them and visible to them in those channels. And don't underestimate the value of new. I've put new product here, but of course it's new services, it's new anything. It's the things that keep your business alive and well. It's the things that give you reasons to talk to your customers, to communicate with them, to build loyalty to your brand. And I mentioned earlier that people are spending less, but more often. And of course, having something new to communicate about fits in beautifully with that. It means that you don't have to have huge amounts of new product at the beginning of a season, but actually much better to have something new every 6 or 8 weeks, because every 6 or 8 weeks you can get in touch with your customer base again and remind them that you're there and what you're doing, that your business is exciting and worth having a look at your website, you know, whatever it might be. So actually picking up on that idea of people spending less and more often, use it to your advantage in having new things to tell them about more regularly. But what I would say to you is that whatever you're doing, whatever business you're in, whatever part of the supply chain, it will be affected by your approach to business. You need to be passionate about what it is that you're doing. We don't work this hard if we don't believe in what we're doing. So spread the enthusiasm for the reason that you get up in the morning, the reason that you keep going. Make sure that people understand what it is that is so great about your business that they want to come and share part of that by selling your products. So have real passion and energy about what you're doing. Be enthusiastic. Have real belief in your ideas and show commitment in the way that you work, both to your teams and to your colleagues, because it is truly infectious. And if you have that passion and energy, they can't help but want to follow you and get involved in the excitement that's actually generating that for you and for your business. So, 10 things to do to appeal to your customers. This is your checklist. Keep your eyes open and see what's going on around you. Take advantage of the opportunities that those represent for you as a business. Be idiosyncratic in the way that you appeal to your target market, so you stand out in their mind as the one that's doing it slightly differently, slightly better, the one that they want to do business with. Be fresh and different. Commit to less so you can be more flexible. It gives you more to talk about more often. And then communication. The only reason for doing all of this is so that you've got a new story to tell to your existing and prospective customers. Think about communicating to your different types of customers in the way that is appropriate to them. So you may decide that you still need to have a catalogue for your range, but that actually for your younger customers who are much happier working online, who are working through the night, will sit down with a coffee at 11 o'clock at night and trawl websites, you need to have a website too. Think about what works for your different customer mix. And if you are a retailer with a window, make sure that you change it regularly. It is free advertising 24/7. When you're not there, your window is still talking to every single person who comes past that shop. On a Sunday after you've closed, if you want them to come back during the week, that window has to look fantastic and it has to look fresh and new regularly. And if you've got a website, well, that's your online window 24/7, 365 days a year. You need to make sure that that's fresh and interesting and changing regularly too. And if you're using social media, make sure you're engaging it often enough that it becomes interesting to follow and people want to understand what it is that you've got to say next. Whatever communication you are using, make sure that you keep it up to date regularly. And we do have to take some calculated risks. In everything that we do, however tight things are, however difficult things are, every now and then you have to go with your gut feeling about something and take a calculated risk. Be completely clear about what it is that you're offering, so that, picking up on the point I made earlier about brand, people know exactly what it is that they're going to get from you and have no unfortunate surprises that they're not going to enjoy. And be completely passionate about what it is that you do, so that you create yourself a niche in the market, you set yourself apart, and you give your customers a reason to do business with you. But you have to remember that with the market changing as it does, this is not a once and for all process. This is ongoing, it's cyclical. It is a roundabout we can't get off, and therefore we need to enjoy every single moment of it. But as you find the things that work well for you, it will become easier. And as it brings you success, make sure you celebrate those successes, because then you can begin to believe in what you're doing. Your enthusiasm will generate commitment with your colleagues and your customers. Thank you.